However, Peru deeply resonates with me. My mom's from Peru, and I just fell in love. And recently, I did my first major expedition, solo expedition in Peru. So this is something anybody can do. I got very good at it, using Google Earth to identify what I thought were ancient structures. You know, I can legitimately say that my footage at many of these places is the only footage that exists of these sites. A legitimate, undocumented temple that Ministry of Culture doesn't know about. There are no signs, no place markers, no archaeologists had ever been there. The locals pointed me to it. To date, there's nothing really on the record that says that they were doing this or were even capable of firing something this big. The Nazca were making their lines around 200 CE. This is 3,500 years before that. As far as I know, if this is a calendar, it is the oldest monolithic calendar in the Americas that we found. You're at these places, and it's not until you put the drone in the air that you end up seeing the full scope of what you're in the middle of. There are structures just there, buried, waiting to be excavated, and who knows what's there and what it's going to tell us, how old it goes.
Well, good. Yeah, man. It is awesome to have you here. Appreciate it. We met at Cosmic Summit 2025, so I knew right away you were super passionate about your work. You were a super chill guy, nice guy. You know, no ego, and kind of just somebody that I felt like one day I'd love to have on the podcast. And I kind of been watching your work, and it just seems like over the last couple of months you've started to really kind of blow up a little bit. You've got some big videos out there, a couple 100,000 views on one of them, and so I watched it and checked it out, and it was like, oh my God, like people have to see this. Like this is a big deal. And then you actually reached out to me last week, and I had an opening. So it was like, perfect. Like this is magical. This is how the universe should work. So appreciate you. Appreciate you making it down here on super short notice and educating us about your work. It's really fascinating.
Oh, thanks, Matt. I'm tickled to be here. Like you said, we met at the summit, and this all happened very spur of the moment. And I'm just glad we were able to lock it in. And you know, the Pillars of the Past channel is, I still consider it in its infancy. It's been a year and a half since I started this thing on Instagram, and you know, now I'm doing the longer form content on YouTube, and it's starting to take off, and the reception has. I'm humbled by it, and I'm grateful that the content is receiving the attention it is.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, people can see your passion about it. And so that's, I think, part of the big reason why you're gaining so much following, plus the content, of course. But yeah, I mean, I didn't realize it was just a year and a half. So to be a year and a half old and already well over 20,000 on YouTube, you know, is a pretty good start, man. So congrats. Very cool.
Thank you.
Yeah. So you've been going to Peru since you were a little kid, every couple of years?
Yeah. So the Pillars of the Past work has centered on Peru. Eventually, you know, I plan to expand more globally and cover a bunch of different ancient civilizations and ancient sites, trying to connect the dots of our past. And however, Peru, deeply resonates with me. My mom's from Peru, and so growing up, every year and a half or so, we would go there and visit family, have Christmases and holidays. And my dad, he was American and was really adventurous. So every time we were down there, it was a new adventure to a new location. And this was back 30 years ago. And most of the sites, as you'll see in the content, unless it's become a tourist spot, you know, there might be a Ministry of Culture sign. I've found locations that didn't have any Ministry of Culture signs. But, you know, back then, 30 years ago, you just kind of had free reign to walk around anywhere. You weren't limited by a tour guide or a specific path. And there was a moment for me when I was right around 12 years old. We went to Machu Picchu, and I was up there. I broke away from my family and was just exploring the site, and there was a cave, made of the structures and the megalithic stones, which was just awe-inspiring at 12 years old. and I saw something kind of glinting in the wall in the cave, so I kind of pulled it out a little bit, and it was seashells in Machu Picchu. And I still have the video footage from when I was a kid with my dad with the whole old high 8 cameras, and I'm like, Dad, look, I found seashells. Look how cool this is, and that blew my mind. So that would start the next subsequent several decades of independent research and studying into our ancient past. Whether it was the geography being incredibly different, oceans being much higher, cataclysms that happen, and then even the trade routes and how important seashells, for example, were to the ancient Inca and the cultures in Peru. And so that just kind of fueled this passion and love for Peru and not only the ancient civilizations but the current cultural peoples that live there. And so I just fell in love. And recently, last year, I did my first major expedition, solo expedition in Peru, where initially I surveyed things on Google Earth. So this is something anybody can do. I got very good at it, using Google Earth to identify what I thought were ancient structures. And these were places on Google Earth that didn't have any place markers, no labels or anything like that, just sitting in the vast openness. I'm like, this looks like it aligns to, the solstice or something like that. This has to be a road. So I marked all these places on my map, and last year, in 23 days, I drove up and down the coast of Peru. It was over 3,000 kilometers, hiking for hours, literally scaling mountains to go to some of these places. I would learn afterwards. I started to do this later in the trip, where I would send my drone on a scout mission first. But what resulted in this was, I went to over 90 sites, and I can legitimately say that the majority of my footage at many of these places is the only footage that exists of these sites.
Right.
Some of them might have been surveyed back in the 70s or so you have an old black and white photo, but there's nothing modern on them. And so that became my goal. Let's capture as many of these places as possible.
So yeah, I guess I just feel like it's like super freaking cool that you are like one of the first people, if not the first person, to go out to a lot of these unnamed sites and to find and to bring that to the world, to bring it to YouTube, to bring it to people who have never seen what these sites look like. They're not even documented. They're not named. You've got all these looting pits. You've got bones and human remains everywhere, and nobody's really seen this before, I feel like. And so it's a big deal what you're bringing to people on your YouTube page. And I figure maybe you just start by just kind of walking us through what that was like getting there and that whole experience, and then what did you see?
All right. Well, thank you. We can pull up one of the videos. The most I put a compilation together of my exploration in Nazca, and so some of I could have prepared better being alone and solo. There were a lot of I turned back twice because at some points things got a little too dicey and dangerous being out there solo. I didn't have a satellite phone or anything like that, but as I started to see more and more of what was being left out there, the importance of documenting this stuff became prevalent. Just because you don't know how long it's going to be there for. You don't know if things are going to get looted more in the future. And nope, like you said, nobody's going out there and doing it, and I think this is a really, fortunately, it's something I'm passionate about, and I'm grateful that there is an audience that is receptive to it, or else it wouldn't get the eyes that it does. And so hopefully, eventually, this all leads to some sort of preservation and study. That would be the most ideal. The fact of the matter is, there are structures just there, buried, waiting to be excavated, and who knows what's there and what it's going to tell us, how old it goes. And so in some of these, if Ryan, you want to pull up the Nazca video, we can go through some of the the journey there.
Good.
And when you see the structures, because like that's what I'm looking for.
So it just looks like desert. I mean, this is
right there. Yeah.
Wow.
So those are that's ancient architecture.
Yep.
And what's ironic is when you can see it from the satellite, you can see it from the drone, but when you're there, half the time you don't know you're standing in the middle of one of these structures. And so thank goodness for the technology that's helpful with this. So I saw these structures initially, but then as I panned out further, and Ryan, if you want to play that, you start to see the vastness of the looting.
So these are unnamed locations, unnamed sites. These are not archaeological sites.
This was not an archaeological site. I mean, it is this one. This particular one didn't have a Ministry of Culture sign, and so just a quick side note: what you'll often find is throughout the coast of Peru and in all of Peru, back when archaeologists or antiquarians were like combing the country looking for ancient sites, they would come across them and primarily look for treasures, but they would also do some site surveying. And so they would mark it down on the map and then move on to the next site. So the fact is, the majority of places that I came across had a Ministry of Culture sign. They haven't been studied in 50 years, and the original studies were a brief survey saying, okay, we found this, we think it's from this time, and then that's it. The money isn't there to do full excavation. Unless it's a tourist spot, these sites are not fully excavated at all. They do a test pit, they get dates, they jot it down, put it on a map, and then that's it. This did not have any Ministry of Culture sign. Mm-hmm. There were a handful of those that I found. We'll get into the undocumented temple later because that's a big one.
Okay.
But if you just fast forward through this, you'll see this stretch of 8 kilometers of looting, and then
wow. So all those holes are looting.
Those are looting pits.
Pits, yeah. And so people just go out there with shovels and they're just digging everywhere that they can dig and hoping to hit something.
And they found stuff. Like,
yeah.
You're only doing this much digging if you know you're finding stuff.
Right.
So, but the ironic part is, or not ironic, curious part is the fact that this stretched on for 8 kilometers.
Right.
8 full kilometers. So I'm wondering, were these ridges, generations of burials, or was it some mass battle or something like that? Because that's a lot of people.
A lot of kilometers. Yeah, no doubt.
And so if you fast forward a little bit, there's a great drone shot of what you see on the actual ground. Yeah, it's coming up here.
Wow. So now we're zoomed in. And we're seeing bones all over the place.
But you talk about like the efforts that go into making it to these places. This is mm-hmm. I'm finding my way up these mountains, trying to scale my way. I think I slip and I fall here. You can see me slide down the hill.
Yep.
Eventually I make it up there, and so there's one of the slings that we spoke about earlier.
What are the slings? Can you go look at that?
There's a better shot of the sling so they're on the left side. It's very faint.
I see it right to the left of that cursor. Yeah.
And so
yeah,
it was actually somebody. At first, I think in one of my early videos, I hypothesized that it was a head wrap or something until an archaeologist and a few other people. Which is also what's just really awesome about making these videos, because I don't have all the information, and it becomes a really awesome community effort when feedback is received, and sometimes people are sending me locations, and so it's the interpersonal feedback is great. And so somebody pointed out that this was actually a sling. You can see there's a little slit in the middle of it, and that's where a stone would go.
So it's a weapon. They're
weapon.
they're using that to like kill animals or to like defend themselves or
likely to defend themselves, I think. The theory I had at another site where I found a bunch of these, and it felt like there was a massive battle.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And so these are roughly 2,000 to 2,800 years old, I guess,
Yes.
in that range.
Yep.
Okay.
And I mean, you're just seeing bones and cotton everywhere.
Right. And again, the cotton was used to wrap the bones and to preserve the bodies. Were they like mummified? Were they attempting to mummify them?
Yeah. So the and here's maize that they were buried with. So the best point of reference is in that on the PowerPoint how they were buried at Chachia Cemetery. So they were mummified, and they would actually take out the internal organs and clean those and put them back in, and then have them in the seated position like this, and this is how they were interred. So this is some of the artifacts that were at these burial sites.
Wow.
I mean, beautiful. Just absolutely. The one on the right, you can see the nose is actually protruding from the spout.
Oh yeah. So that's like there's two eyes around that.
Yeah,
nose,
there's two eyes. Yep.
Wow. It's beautiful. So what are the looters? I mean, that's broken, obviously. So the looter doesn't want that. But are they taking full, intact pieces like that, intact pottery?
I mean, I imagine I think this is just a theory. I think a lot of this stuff, it's just kind of reckless when they're digging for things. And so all you see is pottery shards. And,
Right.
There's a lot of vessels that I come across that it was kind of clear that they were, they broke them to see what was inside. But, I typically think that they're looking for metals. And so all this other stuff like the bones are just discarded.
Wow.
I mean, just frivolously discarded. The pottery's discarded.
Everything except metal, I guess, right?
That's what it would appear.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. To destroy 3,000 years of history just looking for some gold or silver or whatever. That's crazy, man.
So this is this is actually a pretty significant. I wouldn't realize how significant it was until after I came back and did my research. A lot of times when I make my videos, I'll go out in the field, and it's when I come back and start putting together a video for YouTube where I dig hard into the literature. And what I'm standing in there on the right side, that is one piece of giant ceramic.
Wow.
I'm 5'11", so just this thing was 6 feet almost. So one was documented, and somebody sent me an old picture from some article about it, but I have not been able to find anything in the current modern record that is this large. The only thing comparable is actually in Rome.
Wow.
In Rome, right around the same time, ironically, the dolium. So these giant vats that they would make of ceramic, and I mean large enough. Not saying they were fitting people in there, but large enough to fit a person. And they would put them underground to like ferment wine and things like that. And so the ironic that there they are.
Oh yeah. Yep.
But in Peru, there's nothing like this. And so I'm walking around this site, and I just see this big hole in the ground. I'm like, what the heck is this? And I mean, that thing is thick. It is several inches thick. And so I imagine either it was used for a burial, that somebody important was buried there, or when you're burying stuff under the desert like this, it helps to preserve it. It helps to cool things. And so my firm belief is, like, if this is comparable to the Roman practice, this isn't an isolated artifact. There have to be many more of these buried under the sand.
Right.
So it's like, let's get some funding and go find some of them, because to date, there's nothing really on the record that says that they were doing this or were even capable of firing something this big. I don't even, it's not my craftsmanship expertise. I don't even know how you would fire something like that.
No idea. Right. Yeah, that's the mystery is like, what, like, how could you, I mean, you can see the wall poking up on that thing. It's got to be 3 inches thick.
It's super thick.
Yeah, that's crazy. So in this area, there could be hundreds of those underground. There's just no way of knowing until somebody gets out there and digs, right?
Well, and in this area, so again, like using like the satellite or the drone, you can definitely see the structures that are still there buried. You can see the outlines of them, and it's just it's a lack of funding. It's a lack of interest. You know, if a place isn't going to get a lot of tourism, then why are they going to clean it up or spend all the money or time or energy? And, you know, I just can't help but think what ends up getting lost. You know, what aren't we ever going to see because it gets looted or, I mean, not to shift the conversation fully, but there are many sites I came across that just don't exist anymore because they're corporate agriculture. It just comes in and wipes out an entire site. An entire site, it's just gone.
Right.
No documentation, no study. And so.
Yeah, so the walls, when you look at it from above ground and you're looking with your drone footage that you got and you're seeing all these geometric shapes, mostly squares and rectangles, those are, I guess, the remnants of the tops of walls that were there that are now buried underground. Is that right?
The tops of walls, or it depends on which area. The tops of walls or the foundations.
Okay.
Because whatever events, there were some places that were just utterly decimated. So like if you fast forward here on this video, when I climb up to some of the structures, you'll see you can't even make out. There you go. So I imagine those were walls that were stacked higher.
Right.
So at some point, some event knocked it all down.
Right. And these were just like villages and towns and whatnot. But then there's also people buried everywhere. Like you're burying people within the town itself. I mean, what is?
Well, the burials were separate.
Okay.
The burials were on the subsequent opposite ridges. But there was a practice where, it's at one of the other sites. If you fast forward in this video, so in this area, what we just saw was thatch. In this area, the practice was to use the reeds from the valley. The reeds would grow closer to the water source where the river was, and this thatch would be used as roofs.
Uh-huh.
Right? You would thatch your roof, put some adobe mud to solidify it, and you would have a roof. Here, you're finding the thatch being unearthed and unexcavated, and there are walls at this site, which again, this site, no name, where there's structure going meters into the ground, and the looters were digging. They broke through the roofs. So something happened here that covered this entire site up.
Right. And what about like water? I mean, looks like it's out in the middle of the desert, like it just totally dry area. How were they getting water to all the people in the community?
So the river isn't too far away.
Okay.
The river was accessible. Now, how much water you would get from the river? I imagine this has been desert for a fairly long time, which is why like the mummies are preserved so well. I do imagine that it was a bit more fertile, but they were masters at, we're talking the Nazca and the Paracas, so it was before the Wari, but eventually the Wari, they introduced the layered terracing. This was prior to the layered terracing. This site wasn't too far from the river, so I don't think that was a questionable. It was a sustainable source, I would imagine. But they became brilliant at like tapping into the underground water tables or using terracing to. This area gets, I don't know, half an inch of rainfall a year. It's nothing, but this is a unique thing I was studying. So the geology of that area of the coast of Peru, because of the Humboldt current, what ends up happening is you get this layer of fog and cloud coming from the coast before the Andes. So sometimes as you're driving up into the Andes, you can literally just look out and you're on top of the clouds. Those clouds have precipitation, so they knew how to access the very little like dew that would come from it. So I just found that out recently.
Okay, so yeah, what else? I mean, so when you're walking around, what else are you seeing? Is there anything else that you're seeing out there on the ground that you kind of haven't talked about or covered? What else is sprawled out?
Yeah, let's think about where I want to go next year. There was the sandal back there. Yeah, right there.
So 2,000-year-old sandal just sitting there on the ground
Yeah.
that looters just dug up. I mean, tops of pottery, shards everywhere. The rocks, I guess, are probably former walls and
Yep.
former structures. You've got the roofs, the thatched roofs that are all over the place. You've got cotton from the burials. That's a rope.
That's a shoe. That's a sandal.
That's a sandal. Oh, okay.
It's I mean if you play it a little bit, it zooms in, but yeah, that I imagine that was a sandal.
Yeah, probably so. Yeah, for sure. It's not in terrible shape.
No.
2,000-year-old sandal. That's what they looked like, huh?
So I mean, it's just the history that is just sitting there.
Right.
You know.
Right. I mean, it's destroyed, right? I mean, how much of it do you think is actually left? If somebody was to take a big excavation team out there, unlimited funds, I mean, are there still areas that you can go out there and be able to, find like undisturbed stuff?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, there's there are, like I said, several sites that were just barely touched. This, I don't know. You see this a lot in like the Moche regions, which is a bit further north. But even here in the south, I mean, it seems like once a local community or a farmer would find something, like they would kind of go ham. But there's not a lack of unexcavated sites. You just have to have the grit to kind of go out there and do it. But there's pyramids out there that are. I remember you had Brian on the show. I was watching that, and one of the sites he mentioned, the Nazca were a pyramid building culture, and there's a site out there in the desert where there are huge adobe bricks that, and everything from the satellite surveying would indicate pyramid structures. So and they go deep for meters. So there's untouched stuff there. There's 100% untouched stuff.
Talk to us about the Nazca lines and maybe some of the lines that you were able to find that were not documented and that haven't been, and they were really far away from Nazca, right?
Yeah, so that's the Nazca lines are by far the most famous geoglyphs in Peru, but you will see that there are geoglyphs even further to the north, close to Ecuador and stuff. So this was a practice that was happening. But the geoglyphs I found they were in the Norte Chico region, and the Norte Chico were the what has been called the oldest advanced civilization in the Americas, going back to 3,000, 3,500 BCE, so 1,000 years before the Great Pyramids, what is currently stated as the dating of the Great Pyramids of Giza. So where I found these geoglyphs was right in their heartland. And there is one documented geoglyph for this culture on the record. These weren't. And so I saw them. It was a face. It looked like an emoji,
There it is.
Yeah. And so this thing is just staring at you, staring at the satellite, and then I went there and I saw these.
That's the sad emoji, right? It's like stop looting me emoji.
Or where something happened and we're starving.
Right.
And it's but this wasn't it. There were a bunch of shapes and a I mean, you could tell erosion has gotten to this area. But here's the thing: if the Nazca were making their lines around 200 CE, this is 3,500 years before that. You know, and I've reached out to archaeologists. I've reached out to the team that is responsible for excavating sites in this valley, and nobody's gotten back to me with information about it. So I mean, discoveries are still happening. You know what I mean? And so I saw it and I was like, did somebody make this? So I boots on the ground. I went and so that was one of the major undocumented finds from this last expedition. And another one is a temple. You know, I found there's a video on that. It's one of my earlier videos on the channel, Ryan, if you could find it. But a legitimate undocumented temple that Ministry of Culture doesn't know about. There are no signs, no place markers, no archaeologists had ever been there. The locals pointed me to it. I mean, I saw it on Google Earth, but when I went there, and typically the locals won't know. They won't know much of it. I can't say the majority of time when I've come across locals, they won't necessarily know the history of the culture, though we know there are some ruins there. You know, we used to play in them as kids, and
it seems like nobody really knows the history. I mean, like even the Nazca Lines, it's a total guess as to when those were made, you know, and
that's a good point.
I mean, it could be anywhere from certainly that 800, 900 year history of that culture. It could be the prior people that lived there. I mean, it could be, who knows, right?
Yeah, you're absolutely right, man. They've like kind of standardized guesswork.
Yeah.
Guesswork, because, you know, you find an artifact and all of a sudden it dates to this culture.
Right.
And I mean, the truth of the matter is I subscribe to the idea that things are typically a lot older than we attribute them to. You know? I mean, the Nazca Lines are fascinating. Why are you making these giant, and how are you making them so geometrically perfect, you know, and why?
Right. So you went to this sad emoji? And
I did.
And what does it look like from the ground? Like, how deep is it? How did they make it?
So it appeared like kind of the same way they made the Nazca Lines, which was by removing the top layer of soil and exposing the different colored soil underneath. And so, but when I'm there, I actually just released a video of the full exploration, and I'm like, I think I see the eyes. I'm standing in. I was totally wrong. I mean, I was undervaluing the scale of this thing. And so a lot of times, like I said, you're at these places, and it's not until you put the drone in the air that you end up seeing the full scope of what you're in the middle of.
Right. Which adds to the mystery of how did they do it if they couldn't see what they were doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
100%.
Yeah. Yeah, to be observed from the sky. I mean, what are your thoughts on that and the lines in general? I mean, they've got what looks like landing strips, you know, and like just crazy. Like, for what purpose, you know?
I mean, there's a part of me that subscribes to a lot of what Dr. Barnhart has said, because the lines do seem to be constructed along these routes of pilgrimage to the Kawachi pyramids, and so I think that it was some sort of adoration or of ancestors, some sort of ritual in the pilgrimage process. But when it comes to why are you seeing these things from the sky, I mean, it's still up for debate, man.
Yeah.
It's still up for debate.
Yeah, it's just incredible that they were able to do them and to like measure it out. I mean, there had to have some sort of a planning process, and like it's like to be able to draw it out and map it out and measure it and visualize it somehow prior to actually doing it, whether they did it on a smaller scale on the ground first and walked it off with who knows what, ropes or, what steps or whatever they did. But it's incredible stuff for sure.
Well, and it's just like, why?
Yeah.
I mean, it clearly had some sort of deeply rooted, almost spiritual, probably purpose.
Right.
And I mean, and there have been studies about the celestial alignments, and the problem is with the Nacza Lines, there's so many of them. It's so many were done on top of other ones, and then you have the agriculture stuff happening now and mining and that are destroying these things. So to get a full scope or full picture of how it was back then, it's just really difficult. It's just really difficult. That there could be alignments that it could have been a whole map, but we're missing this piece and missing that piece to say that concretely because over time it was destroyed.
Right. Yeah. So you've got these looting holes that are clearly just people digging out of the ground and creating these holes. But then you've got these ancient holes. Is it called the Band of Holes?
Oh yeah, the band of holes. That's a curious one.
Yeah.
That's
they kind of look similar, but not once you're on the ground.
Not once you're on the ground. And I put the video out recently with the band of holes, and a lot of people were suggesting could these have been burials? 6,000 burials, and it's possible. From me being on the ground, I didn't see a single bone, and you see what these sites look like that have had burials. So for me, that pushes the burial idea out of the picture.
Have they been dated at all? Like what's the
They say Nazca. They say Nazca.
Okay. Nazca gets credit for everything.
I mean, right? Yeah.
that's the earliest that we know about that was there in force in that general location, I guess, right? So
yeah, this is it. So this is what you see. Now, if you look in the top of here, you can see how structured they used to be. And personally, I mean, this thing just scales up the mountain. It's in Spanish. It's called Monte Sierpe, the serpent mountain.
And each of them would have been lined with like larger stones, like bricks, basically going around the outside. And I wonder if that was used for construction of some of the walls on the towns nearby later, or because those don't exist anymore in a lot of those holes, right?
That's you can see, and it only goes down a couple feet.
Yeah.
But yeah, this I'm sure some of the stones were repurposed, and we're only seeing kind of the bottom. Actually, I don't know that they could go lower. My guess is I've started to lean towards an irrigation thing, that like somehow because if you trace it, it goes to kind of a high point in one of the mountains. And so if you start thinking about that Humboldt current and the dew that is coming from that layer, and if it just trickles down little by little by little by little, that, I mean, the Wari, I think maybe it's part of like some weird, different, unique terracing. And the reason I say that is because the terracing we do know of in this region, that, half an inch of rainfall a year, they were able to use for 6 months. I mean, half an inch, it's crazy to create layered terracing. So if they were able to do that with that, I'm wondering if they were able to do something like that with this band of holes.
Shouldn't that be easy to prove though? Shouldn't if is there water? Is there a water source when the winter snow starts to melt at the highest point in elevation? Like, does the water start to flow down that general direction?
Well, when we're talking about that, we're talking about high up in the Andes, and that water would come, from my knowledge, would come from through the rivers or the underground water table. What I imagine here in the desert, and you can actually see it, and there is documentation, there is some research on this, where some of these terraces were built on the top of these desert mountains because when you can, when you're in Peru now on the coast, you can still see it. Early morning, as the sun rises and you're driving up into the mountains, just this thick layer of fog that you can't even drive through. I mean, I remember with my dad growing up, we would drive on these, my dad would be sticking his head out of the car to look at the line. But that fog has condensation in it. So if you're building some sort of terraced irrigation system in the thick of that fog, you're getting some condensation on your crops. So that has been documented. I think the band of holes might have been used for that purpose.
Okay. And are there other theories? Like, is there like a mainstream theory or like a alternative theory or?
Actually, no. There's alternative theories for sure.
Yeah, yeah. But there's not like one prominent one that I've ever heard for those things. It seems like it's just a huge mystery for the most part for most people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard that, some people say it was to deter oncoming warring, to create some sort of difficult barrier for some clan to have to pass.
Okay, so granaries, potentially burial sites or boundary markers, processional route. Interesting. Yeah, none of those really. I mean, granary maybe. I don't know, but
yeah, I don't. The
burial
site
found there?
Say it again.
Has there ever been food found there in any of them? Like
no.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. So it's very peculiar.
It's very strange. It's very strange. Yeah. Okay. Well, why don't we take a break? We'll get some lunch. We'll come back and keep going.
Sounds good.
All right. Excellent. So welcome back. And one thing that I didn't ask you that I wanted to in the first segment was when you're at these sites and you're walking around and you see these bones laying on the ground and you know that you're walking on top of ancient ruins and cities and towns, is there any type of a spiritual connection that you feel with your surroundings?
Yeah, absolutely. At first I thought I was kind of making this up in my head, and I still might be, but after having it kind of happen repetitively at each of these sites, I mean, you've been to Peru. The energy is different there. Yeah. There's something different. It's magical, and you just feel different, whether you're in the heart of Lima or in Machu Picchu. But at these sites, by myself, I don't know. I kind of had a ritual as I was approaching these sites. Just a moment of quiet, before approaching and like not knowing what to expect. What I would have, there would eventually become, there's like a weird communion that happens at these sites. I mean, there's a shock at some of the desecrated sites in particular. There's a shock and then an immediate sadness. And I'll tell you what, like, there are just many times in my head where I just like I'd be so grateful and thankful, like, that this I would thank the site for allowing me to capture it, in a weird way. And ironically, what would happen is, this happened on two separate occasions where, like, I had this weird ritual communion with the site. And then as I'm walking out of the site, or the way I came to it, just sitting there. Like, and I walked the same path to get there, but on the way out, there's like an artifact or something else to document that, I mean, for the life of me, I don't think was there before. But in that moment, it felt like the site itself was communicating back and saying, like, thank you for taking the time to do this, because nobody else is. And so I weirdly felt that at the burial sites that I was at. And there's been like I get a lot of comments in the YouTube, and even some of the indigenous folk down there are like, "Don't go do this. These sites have bad energy and bad juju and all this stuff." And that's not my experience at all. Maybe
because you're not looting it, probably.
Because
You're not digging up the bones of people, and yeah, like I mean, it's not bad energy for you. It's grateful energy because you're, appreciating the site as opposed to just ripping apart thousands of years of history.
So that's and it's powerful. It's and I'm clearly more Americanized than and I grew up here, but there's also that ancestral part of me too that but you don't have to have a personal connection with these sites to experience the devastation. It's just it is a quick shock to reality to recognize you're standing in human bodies that use. And when it becomes most apparent is when you can the limbs, like not to get too dark, but like actual limbs with the cotton and the fabric still attached to them, and you can just see that the carelessness that was utilized to desecrate the remains.
Right.
But I really like that. I really valued that kind of moment of quiet and the approach and the gratitude of going to these sites. And I definitely feel like there was some sort of reciprocal, there's some reciprocal energy going on, and it's funny because there is this whole Andean philosophy that goes back generations of reciprocity. And I would find this out after talking to a Quechua anthropologist in Cusco, that and that tradition still lives on within the people, where it's and I saw it at every step of my journey when I would come across random locals who would help me out, who would take time out of their days to walk me through literally hours walk me through a site, dropping whatever they're doing, and not for money, not because I was going to tip them. And in fact, I did try to tip some people after, they took their time to help me. They wouldn't accept it, and so it's this rich idea of reciprocity that still lives on, of, good karma. If I take the time out of my day to help out, at some point, it will be returned. So that's been my experience in Peru to this day.
Yeah. It's a great country and great group of people for sure. Yeah, I mean, it's like the people are just super friendly, and it's not like everybody. There's a lot of areas that are very poverty stricken, that are like just very challenging. But everybody, it feels safe. It feels like it's not like people out there. I mean, I guess part of it is people have enough food to eat, and a lot of people are growing their own food, and people have water, and so there's not like this United States where everybody's fighting for. Everybody needs money, everybody needs food, and you don't get it. But there, it seems like people have that basic need met for the most part, and so there's not that crime.
Crime has picked up with recent political stuff that's happened, but when you go out into the farmlands, I mean, it is. I talked to Dr. Barnhart about this again too. Like the looting that has happened. I mean, if anything, it is their cultural patrimony, but some of the areas like the poverty can be quite shocking. And so like some of the looting might start to like make some sense, that if they can, get enough to sustain themselves. But in the rural areas, the ones out, it is local farms that, they have enough sustenance. And, I mean, to be quite honest, I expected to run into a few hiccups that I didn't. And so it was just, people were tickled when they saw me come out and asking about their history,
Yeah, that's cool. So you got a video coming out today. Why don't we talk about that video for a minute? Because there's some crazy cool stuff that you're releasing on that one.
So this was, and I say it right in the intro, this was my most ambitious project yet. And mainly because of all the research that went into it. And like I said earlier, when I come back and start making a video for YouTube, I dig deep, and one thread leads to another and leads to another and leads to another. But yes, this particular video, I'm trying to connect the dots to see. So there's one main culture, the Norte Chico. This is the oldest advanced culture in the Americas, and they were building these pyramids. And these pyramids had these sunken circular plazas. That was like when you think of oldest civilization in the Americas, you should think of sunken plazas.
What time period?
This was around 3000 BCE.
Okay.
And so, however, in the research, I would find that there are, even though it's Caral, the sacred city of Caral, that is attributed to the Norte Chico, that is a tourist site. You go there, there's like 9 pyramids. I mean, it's they've done a great job excavating. But that's not actually where the oldest comes from. The oldest is a couple valleys to the north in the Fortaleza Valley. And this is documented, and this was why I went dark for like 3 weeks on making content because I was working on this thing. And the oldest sites actually date back to right around 4000 BCE and they have the sunken circular plazas. The other unique feature is this U shape that the structures make. So you'll have a central structure here at the base, and then almost like a Star Wars type of fighter ship. It looks like a little U or a V.
Okay.
So we got these 2 fingerprints, as I call them. And so you have them here down in the Norte Chico region, but then 200 kilometers to the north in the Casma Valley, you also have these sunken plazas, and you also have these U shapes. And as far as we know, as far as like the academic history goes, they weren't talking to each other. But now they're finding in the Casma Valley stuff just as old, if not older, than the Norte Chico. The sunken plazas, they found structures buried underneath Sechin Bajo. And then they found structures underneath the structures that they found. So, and that's dated back to 3600, 4000 BCE also. And so from where I sit and the word I'm looking for, the theory that I'm going off of is the culture we're calling the oldest civilization in the Americas is not as limited as we are saying it was. I think it was that whole stretch. And part of the reason I think it's the whole stretch is because in between those 2 places, on Google Earth, I saw something that looked like a sunken circular plaza, so I went to it, and it was. It was an old temple. And this one hasn't been documented. There's no Ministry of Culture designation on it. No archaeologist had ever been there, but it has the same exact features. So, to me, that is a clear, distinct bridge between these 2 cultures, 200 kilometers apart. Further than that, so it's like, all right, where did they get this idea from? This is some sort of shared fingerprint in the architecture.
200 kilometers apart and supposedly separated by time as well from a...
Well, not now, not anymore, because for the longest time we thought that the sites in the Casma Valley were around 1800 BCE. But now that since they found older stuff, now they're saying they come from the same time, same era.
Got it. Okay.
So I'm like,
which is
they were talking
3,000 BC, 5,000 years ago.
It's actually more than that. It goes back closer to 4,000 BCE.
Okay.
So 6,000 years ago.
Okay.
But then beyond that, even further to the north is a site that changed history, thanks to Tom Dillahay's research, but a site called Huaca Prieta. Huaca Prieta, for the longest time, is just this lonely mound on the coast of Peru, and for the longest time, it was thought to date around, 4,000 BCE, until Tom Dillahay and his team started doing research, and it was fought for a long, academia fought the test results for a long time. But now the test results came back showing that this was, this is Huaca Prieta here. So all the early studies and samples were done from this part towards the right here, but Tom Delahaye started digging in the back and found samples of human occupation going back to 12,550 BCE. So that's when like the first occupation was, that's when people started
Wow.
inhabiting this area.
Okay. So before the onset of the Younger Dryas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, what is found, and I didn't know this until digging into his research, but the connection I've made is at the top of that mound is a sunken circular plaza. And that was done around 8,000-ish years ago, I think, which here we have, as far as I know, and I'm sure as more research continues, more will be revealed. But, I mean, from where I sit, here we have the touchstone of this practice of making a sunken circular plaza. And for the purpose, that's still debatable, but it's there. It's there. You know what I mean? Like, and this is even higher up the coast. And so, yeah, this is, I had no idea this existed until I went and started looking at the papers. I had no idea there was a sunken plaza at this place.
What is a sunken plaza?
It's, I mean, the ones at Corral, they're very ornate and decorative, but it's just these purposefully sunken circular pits, and we don't really know what they were for. That's what they look like.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's typically at the front of at the beginning of a city,
or a temple.
like out in front of a temple or a pyramid or
this here is a pyramid at a site close to Corral, but yes, it was a staple in front of all of these pyramids.
Okay, and we have no idea what they were for. There's nothing found inside of these sunken circular.
There's
plazas?
Some theories of, water collection, but also I believe at Corral they found bone flutes that were carved out of animal bones. So maybe it had some sort of musical or acoustic purpose. But I mean, it could be
like the Colosseum for Rome. I mean, it could be
Exactly.
like battles and sports games and music, and it could be acting and just like the kind of like where
theater.
the theater.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, where kind of everything went down. I guess. I mean, who knows? But there's not really people. We don't know for sure.
I mean, we don't know. We definitely don't know for sure. But
the interesting part is that they're found now. You found these in three
separate locations that are dated to around. This is the oldest. Huaca Prieta is the oldest.
12,500 BC, so almost 15,000 years old.
Almost 15,000 years ago. And so the other interesting thing is like these cultures, there wasn't, the only agriculture that was happening was cotton, really. Like, and that's because those inland cities would, cultivate cotton and then trade it with the people on the coast. The people on the coast would use that cotton, make fishing nets, and give fish back to the people inland. So like they were sustaining themselves with this oceanic, system of trade, and they were doing that at these respective locations. So I'm like, you have the U shapes, you have the sunken circular plazas, you have the same, ideas of trade. How are we not connecting these cultures? And really what that entails in the end is the oldest civilization was not a pocket of four valleys. It spanned the coast of Peru, the oldest so far. That's my theory.
So do you think that the dates on the other two locations, are those, do we know those to be correct at the 4,000 BC?
Yes.
So, okay, so
Yes.
those are correct. So, and the one is closer to 15,000 years old. So you think that it was just like passed down as new cities and temples and pyramids were built, that over thousands of years they kept this same design?
That's what I think. That's what I think.
Interesting. Okay.
And and I mean, so part of this was to with that latest video is I have the academic reports, I have the carbon dating and things like that. So and granted, even with that, there's outlier dates that go even older, and but I just kind of stayed within the realm of what is solid. But the premise for this is this culture was not this was a cradle of civilization. There's no doubt about it. And it was much larger than we think.
Yeah, that's cool. I thought on your slide it said 11,500, but
We can well, as I was making this video, I remember going to there's a sign on the actual site that says 12,550 BC.
Okay, got it. Cool. Okay, well, yeah, that's pretty fascinating. So these sunken plazas are at the center of, and how many sites do these exist at? I mean, the three for sure.
So there's in the research, I was finding sunken plazas everywhere, man. I mean, everywhere, in places that, I mean, Ryan, if you want to pull up the latest video, okay, so this was a bit shot. This was the original layout of this site right here, Sechin Alto. And now, when you superimpose it on Google Earth, I had no idea. All that's left is the very stuff on the left. But that's what it used to be like. Those circles, I point them out here in a second, those were sunken circular plazas.
Interesting.
So, like, how much stuff is out there like that we just, I mean, had I not stumbled across this in the research, I would have never, I had no idea the site was that big. All you have left now in modern times is what you see on the left. So this feature, to answer your question, it was a lot more than just 3 sites. The Sunken Circular Plaza was embedded into dozens and dozens and dozens of sites.
Okay. So, I mean, in terms of destroyed sites, that was another topic that you wanted to kind of get into and cover. That's a good segue, I guess, right?
Yeah, I guess so. We just saw, and I think it's there's some imaging on the PowerPoint there. This happened randomly. Like when I'm using Google Earth, sometimes I'll like roll the satellite date back to get a better visual. And when I did that at a couple sites, I would start to notice like holy hell, there used to be ruins here that weren't there anymore. Just when I say not there anymore, I mean like not even a trace of them. So I went to some of these sites and I found, the corporate agriculture, this isn't local farmers. Like it would be a different story in my heart and in my, perception of this if it was a local family trying to grow sustenance for themselves. This was corporate agriculture that just came in and eviscerated a site. And there's no research on it. There's no documentation on it. You can try to fault the Ministry of Culture and the Peruvian government, but, well, I don't want to do that because I want to stay in good standing. But there's also it's just so much to try to police that I feel like they have their work cut out for them. There's just so many sites that a little no-name site somewhere that nobody's paying attention about just kind of gets eradicated and nobody's any the wiser. Problem with that for me as a researcher and as somebody who not only is, whatever was there is completely lost, but I'm also thinking about alignments. How did this align to that and that? This was a cultural tapestry and network, and when we lose one, who knows what other information we lose about it. So it's just I spoke to a few archaeologists down there. It's a bigger problem than looting, the agricultural expansion. It's quite shocking.
Yeah, that's too bad. That's unfortunate. It makes me think. Yeah, I won't even get into it, but that's too bad. So what about you mentioned the oldest calendar that exists. Talk us through that.
So all right, that was an awesome, exciting adventure, and it actually ties into what we're talking about with the Norte Chico and the sunken plazas. So there was this. It didn't have any place markers or any labels on Google Earth, but as I'm making the trek to get there, I come across this farmer, and his name is Luis. Luis was a gem, and this is a great example of like the cultural experience that I had on my adventures down there. But it was his property, and he was there when archaeologists actually came through and excavated the site. And so he took time. He walked me through the entire site, and he knew so much about it. As I would do my research, I would find the site dates back to, I don't know, 3300 BCE. So it's older than Corral. It's older than what we're saying is the oldest, which was pretty cool to come across. But it also had the only circular plaza with monolithic stones on it. And now the research doesn't specifically say that it was a calendar, but I have done like alignment stuff, and like with where the stones were aligned, it could totally be a calendar. This is it right here. I mean, I took the layout, and I took the stones that used to be there, and I put it into, this AI software, and it could recreate and say with certainty that it could have been used as a calendar system. And so Luis there, he walked me through the site. And so, Ryan, if you move a little further, you should be able to see an aerial shot. This is the U shape that it makes. But there it is right there. See that? Mm-hmm. See how we were seeing the sunken plazas in front of those pyramids? So that's a pyramid here in the forefront. That's the circular plaza, and those are the stones on top. Which means, and this being dated older than Corral, they were doing celestial observations much earlier than, as far as I know, if this is a calendar, it is the oldest monolithic calendar in the Americas that we found.
And the date on it?
It would be 3300-ish BCE.
And what is it about it that makes you think that it could be a calendar, the way that the stones are set up?
The way the stones are set up, when I put it into this, it was actually pretty shocking how the AI was able to manufacture the alignments. The other thing is it's facing directly north-northeast. That's why I thought it was a temple in the first place, because a lot of these structures would be, when they're facing north-northeast, that's in order to account for the sun rising on the solstice, on the June solstice. There's just a litany of sites that are built that way in Peru. They all share that feature. So, it needs more research. It needs more research.
Is it the shadows that the rocks would have been casting, or what is it about it that makes it a calendar?
So the shadows, but also, this is what the AI said, that if you're standing at the base of the pyramid with the calendar in front, you're able to calculate like equinoxes and the solstices and the seasons and stuff like that.
Gotcha.
By looking at like the horizon or something like that. That's eventually some other work that I don't know, maybe I'll write an academic paper or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Right. So it's not sunken now, but it would have been filled in now from...
It was there is a sunken plaza underneath. You can kind of see it faintly, but he was also able to verify that from when the archaeologists came.
Okay, got it. That it was just over time was just filled with sand or something?
Yeah. So you can see it there.
And that's the temple.
Mm-hmm.
You call it a temple, but it's kind of... It would have been the town, I guess, right?
So he was actually able to see, because of archaeologists having gone there. There was this is actually kind of right behind this temple is where the elite used to live, and then the townspeople lived in the surrounding region.
Okay, so it was much more expansive.
It was much more expansive. Yeah.
Okay, so that temple, that mound is just a component of it that we would call a temple. And any idea what happened in that temple area?
No. I will say that I went to another site right next to it that is actually dated older than this, and I wouldn't know that until I started doing research. And there was, it also had that U shape of architecture, but it was also documented that at some point it experienced some flash flooding. And so parts of that entire site were just, I mean, a whole part of a temple was, it's in the video somewhere, a whole part of the temple is just destroyed. And so when the archaeology, when the paper wrote flash flood, it was like they're really minimizing the whatever event this was. And so, but it's in the same valley as that one. So I imagine it was affected as well.
Gotcha. Interesting. What are the Perulian pyramids?
Perulian. This was my, I drove 14 hours to go check this place out, and then hiked my butt off to make it there. I think we have some images on the PowerPoint. This is what I saw from Google Earth. Again, no labels, no nothing, but those are all, so north is up. Those are all facing that north-northeast direction, right? I'm like, this has to be ancient architecture. This just doesn't happen like this. So then this is what they look like on the ground. I found a survey that was done in the 70s that says there's like 16 of these things. There was a brief survey done, and even the main archaeologist, Walter Alva, who did that surveying, for decades, he's been saying, we need to go back here and do more research, and they just never did. There's no time, no money. Like, it's a site with 16 pyramids, you know what I mean? Like this, it's also, so it's been dated, they dated it at 1800 BCE because they found one piece of pottery. And when I went to this site, I mean, you've seen some of the videos that I'm out here exploring. When there's pottery at a site, there's pottery at a site.
Yep.
You know, you're not struggling to find a piece.
No.
So the fact that it was dated to 18, it actually even says in the survey that it's likely far older, but they just kind of left it at that. These structures were not made of stacked stones. This was bedrock. They carved this. Just like they did the Sphinx, they carved this. And this is just, you know, the main pyramid at the complex. Now, what I did find in what archaeologists did in the survey is they were able to they dug into part of the pyramid, and there's chambers in there carved out of the bedrock, like rooms. When I got there, actually in that one. And so, and when I got there, either the archaeologists filled it back up or just time has. This is right on the coast, so the erosion is real, it's strong, and it's fast. You know, so to think what these must have looked like, knowing that climate, and I mean, when I say on the coast, I mean the ocean is a mile away, you know, and it's flat, so it has been affected abundantly throughout history. I mean, this is
any tsunami, I guess, just washes right up there then. Yeah.
Right up there.
Yeah. So, but is there like tunnel systems or something to get down into there then, or where's the entrance to the chambers?
You know,
we don't know.
Don't know, man.
Okay.
Like,
okay.
If there was any site that I felt like deserved attention and research, it's this one. And, you know, we talked earlier about, is there any kind of spiritual connection when I go visit these places? When I was walking to this one, the feeling I had, and the feelings aren't facts, but the feeling I had was, it felt like a place of pilgrimage. It felt like this is where this was revered somehow. And I mean, you just look at the structures, and they are. I mean, they don't look like much when you get on the ground, but well, I don't know. I mean, they.
So that's them. So essentially, they just carved off like those little. That is just a little mound behind it, just a solid rock mound that's just naturally forming there, and they just shave the top of it off. Kind of like in Nazca, where you see like the some of the tops of the mountains have been completely sawed off. This is that kind of on a smaller scale, I guess.
Yeah, and actually on the next, or maybe it might be the previous two slides or something. Next one. So yeah, like on the bottom left, it almost looks like they kind of started to do that one, and then just something happened and they left it.
One of those tsunamis.
One of those, something happened, man. So the interesting part about this one is, okay, if you go to the next slide. So, okay, you see those two big, when I saw this on Google Earth, you can see at the bottom left, you can see the little looting pits. They're kind of faint, but those, I noticed that on other one. Yeah, that one.
Oh, sure, yeah.
All right, so you see, so I was like, all right, these stone blocks look weird, and it looks like
standing up. Those stone blocks, those two.
That's I had no idea, but I was like, that has to be something.
Yeah.
So when I was down there, and if you now go to the picture on the top left or top right, that's what they look like from afar. And really, so the exact same method of carving the bedrock, that's what they did here with these. And so, and I was like, this is strange. But all throughout this little alcove are burial. I verified that there are exhumed bones in this little alcove in the mountains. But I'm like, this was clearly intentional. And that got proven to me when I got in between those two blocks and held out the compass. And it was direct east. Just direct east. And so, you know,
So they're lined up north-south?
They're aligned north-south, and the gap is facing direct east. So, you know, like the ancient Egyptians have, you know, they don't use the word death or deceit. They say westing, you know. So some sort of ancient celestial connection with alignments. And the fact that the pyramids were all lined north-northeast too, that's... So this is one of my top choice insights too that needs reinvestigation.
And nothing else around it. It's just kind of barren.
It's barren.
Yeah. And it took 14 hours to get to from
Lima.
Yeah.
And then I had to hike to find my way. There's an amazing adventure of it all on the YouTube. Yeah, I just had a thought, but I lost it. Oh yeah, so the other thing, this process of carving, sculpting the land to, I mean, you went to Cusco. This is a tradition that has been passed on for generations throughout the Andean civilizations. Because in Cusco, you can see how, you know, half the structure will be the mountain, and then they have the rocks, you know, built alongside of it, so it all forms a wall or something like that. So like this notion of using the land to build, it goes that far back. And we go back to Huaca Prieta. They were using that mound and shaping that mound to build, and so it's a process that has little breadcrumbs that go back to an age that we're still trying to pinpoint.
Interesting. Yeah, it's a really cool area. All right. So was that kind of your trip? I mean, the most recent one, I know you're going back in November, but anything else from that's worth pointing out from that adventure?
I mean, that's the plan is November. I'm excited about that. I mean, we can talk about did we talk about the undocumented temple?
I don't think so.
No. So we might have touched on it, but I think we did, because it was in between the Norte Chico and the Casma Valley sites. Just that sunken circular plaza, you know, I trained myself really well on Google Earth to kind of see these things, and so far so far my accuracy rating is 100% with all of these sites I identified.
Nice.
And again, as I'm going and doing research, one of the biggest things I realized was there's no modern documentation on a lot of these things, and so we're all losing out here because we don't. God only knows if it's going to be around another 5 years, or if some sort of corporate agriculture thing, or some sort of event happens, And so part of my goal here and part of the trip in November is to go to even more obscure locations and actually try to focus on more megalithic sites, more of the little known or unknown megalithic sites that happen to be. I mean, we're going to be bouncing around all sorts of areas. I'm doing it with Archaic Lens. That's its handle on X, I think, and so I'm excited about that.
Nice. Any other big passions outside of Peru? Anything that you're super into?
I play semi-pro ping pong.
Okay, all right, yeah. Cool. All right, nice.
Yeah,
nice.
I mean, I've got trophies, and I've been deciding if there might be a point where I start to bleed some of that content in, but
Sure.
I mean, I love table tennis.
Nice.
So,
yeah. I won't mess with you on the table tennis then. That's pretty cool.
But that and filmmaking has been, it's what I've done professionally for work, video editing, and so I'm able to kind of translate that into some of these adventures.
Yep. Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, very good. Well, it's been cool to get to know you and chat with you and learn about what you've been exploring out there. You're one of the only people.
He found some.
There he is.
He found some videos.
You probably should have made that shot.
No. That was his channel. You got to play the ones from my channel.
All right. Well, very good.
I'll send you something to plug in there.
Yeah, perfect. Cool, man. Well, it's been cool to get to know you. Good to chat with you and kind of explore your adventures down in Peru. And I mean, you're going to sites that not a lot of people have been to outside of looters. So it's cool to actually get somebody there who cares about the site and is going to bring back some cool information for the rest of us to learn from and gather. And it just seems like there's so much of that down there. I just really didn't realize that there were so many sites down there that have been completely unexplored, that nobody has checked into and knows about, that archaeology hasn't, dug, blocked off, and that's just free reign for people to go into. And, you're trashing a completely ancient, sacred site in hopes that you find a little bit of metal. And it's like, this has been happening for 2 decades now. And it's like, it seems like, bringing some attention to this could maybe help put a stop to it and preserve some of these sites for future generations to explore. So I think it's just valuable work that you're doing, and, wish that, I think that through this, hopefully more people will know about it. Hopefully your channel will keep growing and you can keep educating people about it.
Thanks, Matt. I appreciate that.
Yep.
Thank you.
Awesome. Very good. We'll wrap with that.
All right.
Good
awesome.
stuff, man.
Yep.
Good stuff.